save. The next week nali nnyingidde. Kusookera ddala nali nsuubira P7 okusobola okunnyambako okusevinga ssente. Ekyo nekituukirira nakifuna. Ekyokubiri nali nsuubira P7 okutuyambako mu projekiti zaffe naffe zetukola ngetuwola ku ssente, naye lwakuba nze sinnakikola, naye nga waliwo bannange abazze nga bakikola nga bakifunamu. Then ekirala P7 bye nali nsuubiramu okusookera ddala nalina ekizibu ky'okusevinga school fees z'abaana bange, ne P7 yakinnyambako era school fees ezo nzisevinga ne P7. Time bwetuuka ne nzijjayo ne nsobola okusasulira abaana bange okusoma n'ebirala bye nzize nfunamu from P7. So P7 esookera ddala nga nze yampa amaanyi okukola, because namanyanga nti buli lwenkola lunaku nnyo okubaako kyensevinga with P7. Luli nali sikirina nga oba nzize kyonna kyemba that is enough, naye nafumanya nti buli lunaku nnyo okubaako nekyenkola ekyensevinga with P7, then nempa that active work mu mirimu gyange. Kati then ekirala P7 egezezzaako nnyo tulaga nti naffe tusobola okukola ne tuvaako ebintu bye tukola, because twalinga twerabanga abantu nga sente ze tufuna ziyinza okuba tezirina nnyo meaning, naye P7 etuyambye ekintu tukimanyi era ne tukifunamu. Ebbanga limaze nga nsevinga nayo nsobodde ogulayo ka plot, naye nga tekalimu building, wabula kyekimu ku bye mbadde njagala okuzzaako, naye lwakuba mu projekiti eyo awo ngenda okugira mu P7 basobole okunkola ku ssente, then nsobole okuzimbamu ate enjawulo weeri, because ereese enkulaakulana munze ne bammemba bannange abalala betujoyininze P7, so tulinawo enjawulo. Ebigambo bye nandyagadde okusembayo nabyo tubadde tusaba, first of all nze nkyogerako naye ne bammemba bannange bakirina mu birowoozo, tubadde tusaba P7 bwebeerayo ne ka project konna akasobola okutufunira ku ssente naye nga tusobola ozizza mu bbanga eritali tono nnyo nga ddenemu, akasente ako nga kasobola otukulaakulanya. Tubadde tusaba ekyo P7 ekitukolere, kuba tukyayayanira enkulaakulana, kuba tukyajagala, ate twakizuula nti tulina bannaffe abatulowoozaako nga ba P7 nga baagala tusitukire wamu. So tubasaba ekyo mu projekiti ya P7 bakituteeremu, ffe ng'abamakanika tusobole okubaako bye tufuna mu P7, naye nga tujja kwongera okutereka ne P7. Ekirala nange ngenda kwongera okunnyonnyola abamakanika bannange bonna abalala ne P7 kikyekola. Amagezi gempa abatannaba kuyingira nti bajje bajoyininge. Ekisookera ddala kibiina kya bwesigwa, kirina trust, tulabyeko ffe ku birungi byekikola, watusevinze nakyo time ewera, tetukifunyeemu buzibu, so tubasaba bajoyininge. Ate nange mu ekyo nja kusobola okunnyonnyola, kuba nange nina abamakanika bannange bensobola okwogera nabo abatannaba kujoyininga, so basobole okujoyininga P7 tukwataganire wamu nayo. P7 mwebale tuwa service ennungi, era nsaba Mukama abeere nammwe, bongere okubawa amaanyi mu mirimu gyammwe, n'enkolagana yammwe naffe eyongere okubeera ennungi.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSEV, the PSEV virtual space today. I hope you're warm and you're doing well. Welcome to this financial literacy session. I hope you're excited and ready to learn. I hope you have questions, and I hope they get answered. So before we start, I would like to open up with a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for today. We thank you for yet another opportunity to gather in your presence. I ask that you will take over this session today. I pray that you will gather those of our numbers who have not yet joined. And I pray that our expectations will be met over and above. Commit all the speakers into your hands. I pray that you'll give them clear utterance and that this session will be a starting point for many of us. In Jesus' name I have prayed. Amen. Welcome, everybody. I would like to encourage each of us to comment in the chat room, your name, what you do, and where you're joining us from. But for now, I will invite the CEO to make opening remarks, and then she will also invite the chairperson. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you so much, Faith. And welcome, members. It's an honor and a privilege for me to welcome you for this finance literacy training on behalf of the management team. The major role for this finance literacy training is majorly to impact this generation, but also the next generation of investors to understand where to make the right investments to boost your income. And at this time, I would also wish to extend my deep appreciation to the founder members of PSEV and the ex-officials. Furthermore, I appreciate the Inspire Synergy for allowing us to air this on this platform, not forgetting the management team that has worked tirelessly hard to make sure that this training is a success. At this point, I would like to invite our board chairperson, Mrs. Priscilla Seruka, to take on from here.
Thank you so much, Rosette, and good morning, PSEV. Good morning, members. Give me a high five somewhere in the chat at least to know that you are alive and well.
Good morning, Chair.
It's a privilege and honor to have you this morning, and indeed to know that we are learning something new. I welcome you, and I know the trainer who is going to train us. I've been with him in a training session where he was training also. And I can only say, just sit comfortably and wait to learn. But I want to appreciate God for each one of you who has taken you through the year. I know we have gone through many difficult times, but we thank God that we are still alive, those of us who are alive. We want to condole with those of you who have lost your family, friends, or relatives through the year. May the Lord continue to comfort you and to come through for you. We want to condole even with those who have lost their businesses, those who have experienced terrible financial hardships through the year. We pray that the Lord will indeed resurrect you from the pit where you may feel you are in. And we thank you that you're able to join in today to get new ideas of how you can get out of that pit. I want to thank the management for the work they've done through the year in these very difficult seasons. They have been able to continue giving services all through the year. I think let's give a hand clap to the management. It's not easy in these perilous, I didn't hear the claps, huh? All right, but I hope you have done them. It's not easy in perilous times that we have gone through to lead a financial institution. And I've had stories in many financial institutions. I know it has not been easy at all. but they have sailed through and endeavored to ensure that you are served all through the year. We welcome you to these training sessions. We should have had many more through the year, but I'm glad that we are having one this time. And this season that we have gone through, it has been one of those seasons which have really highlighted to each one of us that one salary is not enough. But even two may not be enough because many things have been hit in many ways, which we had never thought about or experienced. For example, whoever knew that schools could close for 2 whole years? And you know that with the schools, there's a whole supply chain of people who supply things to schools, food, stationery, the incomes of the staff and so on. And all have been hit in a special way. So the pandemic has taught us that we need more than one income. I have read about the Jews who say, actually, we need 7 income streams. And then you know you can be financially stable. It is therefore very prudent for us to keep seeking for new and additional income streams in whatever we are doing. But it's interesting that even through the pandemic, there are people who have had a boost in income generation. There's a business network I belong to, and people each week are saying, you know, thank you for closed business, 3 million, 4 million. You know, and the first time when I joined, I wondered, where do people get this money? But it is there. And as we keep seeking, as we keep learning, I'm sure for each one of us, we will have eyes to see how we can increase and boost our incomes. I look forward to today's learning, and I also want to thank so much the founder members of PSAVE, the earlier workers of PSAVE that had ensured that PSAVE is here and alive and going. I am very grateful for that testimony of Daudi Dumba. Daudi Dumba, woba gy'oli, Mukama yeebale kukulaakulanya, era tova ku mukutu, tova ku PSAVE, leeta banno nga bw'oyogedde, nabo basobole okukulaakulana. I don't want to say so much, but let's be open to learn. Let's be open to learn out something new. One of the things I have learned in this season is about humility. Sometimes we fail to see the different possibilities of what we could do because of our pride. There are things we have thought they are too low for us, or we think we are a little higher than what is there for us to do. But let's also ask the Lord to touch our attitude, because sometimes our attitudes or our own very self, we are our greatest liabilities to breaking forth in business. So may we have an open mind, an open attitude, that we may be able to pick something that will cause us to run or surge forward in our quest for more income. I thank you so much, and I welcome each one of you. And I will hand back to the CEO and as we go into the training. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair, for that wonderful speech. I want to also further invite our moderator who will invite
I think, Rosette, you are having feedback because of 2 gadgets. You should have one device on 0 volume, perhaps.
Thank you so much. I'd want to invite our moderator, Faith Aida, who's also our secretary of the PSAVE board, to invite our speaker for the day.
Thank you so much, CEO. Our speaker is none other than Mr. Ronald Mukasa, who has provided business management, financial literacy, and financial management to individuals and SMEs for the last 10 years. Mr. Ronald Mukasa is the Director of Research, Innovation, and Learning at Enterprise Uganda. He is also a team leader at Geuka Africa Limited, an e-learning personal improvement education platform, and business consultancy firm. He has worked as an auditor with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Uganda. Mr. Ronald is a passionate leader, and we are honored and privileged to have him speak to us today about how to make the right investment and boost your personal income. Mr. Ronald, you're welcome. And you may carry us away.
Thank you so much, Faith, for that kind introduction. I hope you can clearly see my screen.
Yes.
Super. And I'll attempt to get my video on so that you see the face behind the voice. It's such an honor being here. I'm very, very privileged to be part of the PSAVE family today, as we discussed how we can grow our incomes, how we can boost our investments. I am not new to this family at all. I think, as Madam Priscilla said, we have engaged on various engagements on entrepreneurship and business. And for me, it is always a big privilege and a singular honor to be part of this. I also have, I think, for the broader church family, I have quite a big bit of family in the broader church. So it is such an honor being here today. Today, I want to thank all of you who have taken off time this Saturday morning to come and we talk about the subject of how we can be able to boost our investments, how we can be able to grow our income. That is something which I think is important. I think one of the things which has come out clearly during the last couple of years is that this is no longer a subject we can delegate to our spouses. This is no longer a subject we can delegate to our employers. Madam Priscilla has made it clear that all of us in one way or the other have been impacted by the situation which we are in. And I think it is also a sign that we are running at a time when we need to kind of look deeper when it comes to our personal finances. So for me, it is such an honor to just simply come and we discuss together and we debate together how we can get our financial houses in order. It's one of the things which has happened during this period is that all of us are looking at our finances in more detail. Some families have lost employment, and when you lose employment, you pay attention to every cost. You pay attention to tomatoes. You say, how many have I used and why did we use those many? Could we use less? You will be able to pay attention. If one of the spouses has lost a job, you'll notice that there are things which you thought were obvious that they had to be part of your family budgets, but you're saying no, we are not. The way we are running this is a bit different. We are going to look a bit deeper. Possibly we can be able to cut this cost. We can be able to increase income. Families have started businesses which earlier they hadn't started. I mean, there are people where both spouses have even lost work. So you say that what can we start at home to be able to keep afloat? So those are questions we have been going through. So really, I want to thank the PSAVE family for. I want to thank the PSAVE family for coming out clearly and saying that this is what we want our membership to be able to grow into, and to congratulate you as a circle for the progress which you have made. I myself am a cooperator. I'm a member of the Franciscan Investment Cooperative. That is the equivalent of PSAVE at St. Francis in Makerere, and I totally believe that if we are to have financial emancipation, it is going to come through associations like this, where members bring their resources together to fund those who are going to business, to fund those who want to make investments, so that together they can be able to grow. I personally believe that this financial model is a model which can work, is a model which has worked. I have to admit that personally for the last 10 years, I've never borrowed from a financial institution other than my circle, and it has worked for me, and I've seen the growth in my personal finances by making sure that, because when I pay an interest to my circle, two things happen. One is that I will be able to make a bit of that interest back because I'm the owner of the circle. But secondly, I'm also building my colleagues and my fellow cooperators. So I want to thank you for joining the circle. And as the video showed earlier, let's have more members come and join, because this is a model that works. So let's get to the business of today. I want to start off with a question, and I want you to quickly go to the chat room, and I want you to tell me where you think you are at. Where are you at? And this is the question. The question is this: I want you on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is I am totally financially independent, my financial house is in order, I am experiencing full financial freedom, and 1 where my finances are really in disarray. I want you to score yourself and say that I feel like I'm a 4, I feel like I'm a 7, I feel like I'm a 5, I feel like I'm an 8, I feel like I'm a 2. Let's score ourselves and put that in the chat room. So quickly just put that score in the chat room. Thank you, Priscilla. Priscilla has scored. Ken, thank you. Helen, thank you. Damali, thank you. Caroline, thank you. Pade, thank you. Great. Thank you, Simon. Emmanuel, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Great. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dorcas. Rosalind, thank you. Great. Please keep scoring. We're about 60 people. I expect at least 50% of us to come through with our score. Question is very simple. Scale of 1 to 10. Where do you put yourself? 10, totally financially in order. Barbara, your score is very interesting. The Lord is my shepherd. That's where I am. That's why I'm here. Perfect. Barbara, your score is not in the 1 to 10, but there we have it. Betty, thank you. SDN, thank you. Michael, thank you. Harriet, thank you. Kareabara, thank you. Faith, thank you. Great. All right. Super. Dorothy, thank you. The scores are still coming in. Please do score. Please do score. Great. One thing which comes out clearly is that my conservative estimate, thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jackie. Great. One thing which seems to come out clearly from this conversation right here is that my conservative estimate is that we are between 4 and 5 as an average, as a group. Yeah. I'm going to change this question. I want you to answer this question from the perspective of your family, your friends, your workmates, your extended family. If they were to score you, what answer would they give to where they think you are at? Do they think that you are at 10, totally financially independent? Do they think that you are 1? And now I'm asking not for you who is in this financial situation, but from the outside, the people who are watching you. Let's put that score. Second question is, if you are to be scored by your family and friends. Yes, Doreen, thank you. Caroline, thank you. Priscilla, thank you. Damali, thank you. Emma, thank you. Helen, thank you. Jackie, thank you. Great. Aimbisiwe, thank you. Paul, thank you. Pade, thank you. Joel, thank you. Edward, thank you. Betty, thank you. Evelyn, thank you. Dorcas, thank you. Great, great, great. 5. This is from the perspective of your family. How do they look at you? Let's give it a few more minutes. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Tony. Tony says it's a 10 plus, it's beyond 10. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Great. So thanks for those responses. Now, the question which I want us to first interrogate is why? Why is it, by my conservative estimate here from the responses you have given to the second question, before I think we are between 4 and 5, my quick estimate here is the average is between 7 and 8. It means that the people who are watching us, we look much more financially independent than we actually think we are. The question I'm going to ask is why. I'm going to ask one person who had 10 plus. Tony, Faith, can you help me unmute Tony? And he just tells us why he thinks, why he's scoring at 10 plus.
I'm Tony. I'm in South Korea right now.
Yes, Tony.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Tony.
Thank you. I think it's a perception, maybe because we are so quick at responding to their financial obligations, and we show a lot of commitment to when somebody's in help, you come quickly give a hand. So that's the atmosphere maybe we have created around us, and that's how people tend to perceive us. So then we try to strive to keep that name, that image, and so that they don't say somebody's becoming bankrupt and stuff.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Sorry, my volume had dropped a bit, but I think Tony clearly points out the fact that there is a sense that the picture which is given to us is different from the picture which other people see. I see, Mike, you wanted to add to this? You have your hand up. Mike Perez. Mike, are you there? Hello? Hello? Faith, can you hear me? I'm not very sure whether my volume is coming through.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, great. Super. I wanted one more comment, possibly from Pade. Pade Musana. Yes, Pade, please give us your comment.
Now, this is Mike.
Mike, please go ahead.
Yeah, now me, what I think is like some people, maybe before lockdown, maybe they were seeing what we're doing to them. And now, right now, that people don't see what maybe you were helping some people before, and now you can't help everyone that like you used to help them. So now, basically on my side, it's like I've put 5 because I'm not doing well at the moment, and people are like realizing the guy's not doing well at the moment. So basically, that's my comment.
So during the lockdown, we were offering much more support, and people are expecting that support to keep coming. Let me read a comment here from Helen. Helen says they imagine and draw conclusions based on what they see and what they individually consider to be the things that make one to have arrived. Iggy, if in their mindset, if in their mind consider having a car as being the epitome of being well off, they will think one is well off because they have a car. That's Helen's comment. I think we are all on the same page on this. And one thing which comes out clearly from this conversation is that we see that and the actual reality which we are in, I usually have to ask ourselves, how are we drawing the picture of our personal couple of minutes? What I really want shares can be different. And when you think about your income, your personal finances, when you think about personal financial independence, a lot of it boils down to the fact that many times we may be running a show which we also don't believe in, but everyone else thinks that it is going well. And that's where I really want to start to get our conversation going from. I want us to start by saying, where are we at? And I think from the responses, we have seen clearly that a number of people are saying that I feel like there is a variation, even from the average score which we have had. There is a variation between what everyone else thinks and what I believe that I am actually going through. They look at how you dress and the type of house you own. That's what Ken is saying. The type of house you own. All these things paint pictures, but we know that the actual question of being financially independent is a very different question. So today I'm going to ask us in the next couple of minutes to kind of answer these three questions for ourselves. Why do I want to win? When it comes to personal finances, that's the first question. Why do you want to win? Why do you want to be financially independent? The why is important, and you have to notice that the why is different for everyone. But you have to have your why, and you have to ask yourself, what is it about that? Why am I chasing this? Because sometimes we are chasing something which is someone else's financial dream, but we're not chasing ours. Then two, how can I boost my income? How can I boost my income? That's the second question. Those are three questions we're going to look at in this presentation. I'll start by this quote. I encourage all of you to take interest in a guy called Dave Ramsey. He's a speaker on this subject. I believe, in my opinion, his messages are very, very critical for anyone who is attempting and trying to say they are out to find financial independence. But this is one of his quotes. He says that personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. Now, this is critical. It is important to notice that when it comes to personal finance, the numbers are not complex. The facts are not complex. The laws are not even complex to understand. They are very simple. When you talk about make sure that you have a saving, make sure that you invest, all those laws are very simple to understand. But the point is that you are battling with one of the most complex people to battle with, the person you see in the mirror. It is a behavior issue. It is the way we behave with money. There are people who are earning the same amount of salaries, but one is heavily indebted than the other is not. And it's a behavior issue. It is the way we choose to actually operate with money. And this behavior has been cultivated for years. All of us grew up in households which had very different financial behaviors. But that cultivation of those financial behaviors is possibly the reason why we behave the way we behave. Some of us may have grown up in households where there is a sense that that it's impossible to make it. Money doesn't grow on trees. Do you think you might have grown up in a household where death was celebrated? There are people who have had saying that, for me, even when I die, I should have a death. And that's the way. And you could have grown up in such a setup. So the point is that the behavior has been caused by something. But what's critical to notice is that this is not a battle of knowledge. It's a battle of behavior. It's a battle of a set of behaviors which you have, which you are currently running with. And these behaviors, they are the ones which you are actually fighting to be able to walk through. And I think for me, this is one of those critical little points which we need to look at deeply as we start our journey in personal finances. So I'll quickly go to the first question. Why do you want to win? Why do I want to win? That's the first question I want all of us to ask ourselves. You have to answer your why. The why is not the same for everyone. Why do you want those investments? Why do you want that bigger salary? Why do you want to run that business? And what's your why? The why has to be clear. It has to be clear to you, the person. And if you don't know why you want to get them, you have put yourself in a very complex position because you are running towards a destination that you are uncertain of. The why is critical. Why? And we have different whys. Some people are saying that the reason why I want to be financially independent is to give my family a decent life. Some of us grew up in households where you were 3 children or 4 children sharing the same bed, and you have said that I don't want my children to go through that. Some of us, our education was very challenging. And we have said that why we want to be financially independent is so that we can educate our children, give them the best education, and do it in a way which is not a struggle. We want to be able to fulfill their potential. That could be yours. And a lot of your pursuit for financial independence is rotating around that possibility it can bring to be able to give your family. Okay. Some people, they say, I want to run a business. I mean, you want to run a big grain miller. And that's, for me, I'm pursuing this because I want to make that business which will make an impact on my society. Great. That is your why. And you have said that that's why you are pursuing this. Other people, it is, I want to travel the world. I want to be in all parts of the world. I want to see the world. That is, for me, why I want to achieve financial independence. Even just travel the country, I want to be able to do that. Is why. Other people, that's their why. They want to be financially independent. They want to impact their communities, be able to give generously, be able to bring piped water to their villages, be able to educate the children, the less privileged children. They want to be able to be financially free to do those things, to educate them. Other people are even looking for political office. They say that I want to be able to lead, but financial independence means that. Now, the point here, which is important, is to notice that the why, the path to financial independence is driven by the why you are in this game. And if you understand your why, then drawing the path to financial independence becomes simpler. But I want to tell you that most of us never get to the point of defining why. Defining why. I mean, you have seen people who are involved in corruption, and then you say that, why are you amassing all this wealth? You say, I don't know, but I feel safer when it is here. But you say, why? What is it? What are you trying to chase? The point is that you need to answer this question for yourself. And it doesn't have to be similar to the one of your neighbor. As a family, sit husband and wife and say, this is our why. And when you have answered the question of why, then we can start discussing a path of how, in the question of why, it becomes very difficult for us to be able to start walking towards that direction. So when we think about financial independence, which is the status of having enough income to pay one's living expenses for the rest of your life without having to be employed or dependent on others, the reason why we all want to pursue financial independence, able to kind of close in on that why. We want to be able to close in on the why factor. And I would like to argue here that your why you pursue financial independence is to give you permission to be. He said, is this child here, he got a 12 in PLE, but the school he was in had no teachers, but we think that he can make it, and you want to be able to say, I can pay school fees for that child, and you want that money to be available to to do that. You want that possibility to be there. You want to be able to see a cause to go back to the place where you grew up. I mean, it could be even as simple as saying your parents' house is the one in which you grew up is really in a bad shape, and you want to be able to build it again and build them a new house. You want that to be, that's why you want to have financial independence. You want your child to approach you and tell you that he has excelled in S6 and he has got a scholarship at Harvard University, a scholarship at Oxford University, a scholarship at University of Johannesburg, a scholarship at the University of Tokyo, and they have asked you for just a part contribution of $20,000, and you want to be able to say, I can do that. You want, that is why you want financial independence. You want your children not to go through the same experience you went through of always going back because school fees was not enough. You want that not to happen to your children. That's why we pursue financial independence. Our reasons are different, but the point here is that we need to have them. Now, let me move on. The thing which you need to remember is that when you think about your why, it is not for your funds. It is for you. Don't pursue financial independence for the audience, for how people look at me. Pursue financial independence for yourself. You are not running your neighbor's race. You are running your own race. And I'll tell you, there are young people who have just left school. And the first car they buy, the first time they've joined the bank, they tell them you have access to a loan. Their very first investment of 30 million shillings, which is after 6 months of joining the bank, because they have access to that rate. First investment is a Harrier. And they buy it, and indeed they will park it at church, and it will look like, but the question you have to ask yourself is why? Is it for the comfort? You who was on campus 6 months ago, raining on you, shining on you, you were alive. Now you are telling us that Kampala is very busy, taxis are very risky, and now you need a Harrier. We don't get it. There has to be a force which is pushing you. It is just to make sure, and we all enjoy that. When, you know, when someone walks out of church and says, hey, and this is the thing which you're driving, yeah. You see it in our eyes, the fulfillment. We will clap for you. It is not for your funds. When you make a wedding contribution, do you make it for the funds or you make it for you? You are planning to contribute 100, then we find you have contributed 500. Why? Because you want a bigger clap, you want a bigger hug. First thing about financial independence, it's not for the funds, it is for you. The second thing is we all have different starting points and different destinations. Don't look at the person. People are going to different places and it's okay. We are all not going to the same place. It is people are running to different places. And some of us are chasing people who are going to a different place. I can tell you with confidence. Most people I talk to, and I have an opportunity to talk to so many people on the issues of personal finance, their plan is not to become Sudhir. It's not their plan at all. It's not one of the things which they aspire to do in their lifetime. There is a sense of what they want to achieve, and that's it. So don't get lost in other people's races. People are going to different places. The question is, you, where are you going, and where is it? And we are starting from different places. Some of us, our first salary paid for school fees for our siblings. That was our very first salary. Another person did have that, but you're starting from a different place. So when it comes to this journey of personal finance, understand that we are going to different places and we have different, we're going to different destinations and we have different starting points. And it's okay. It's okay. Some people, their first 10 years was just lifting their family out of the pit which it was in. That was it. And we can't say that they were not successful. The point is that that was the priority at that time. Other people, their task is to get out of debt. That is the battle which they're trying to push for. And they are chasing that. And when you look at them, they may not look like they're moving, but they are not growing, but they are coming out of a pit. And that's the journey which they're at. So you need to understand and ask yourself, exactly where am I going and where am I starting from, so that you craft a financial journey for yourself. The third thing is that, remember, it's not a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Those of you who have had the chance to participate in a marathon, it isn't that marathon runners are not running. They are running long distances at a constant pace. And it's important to notice that what we are doing here is a cheptegei. We are not doing a Hussein Bolt. It's a cheptegei. So get onto your pace and say that I'm starting my journey. The marathon we want you to run in P7, I'm going to talk about this in a moment. The marathon which we want you to run in P7 is that P7 is going to be here in 2031. It's going to be here in 2041. How do I run that marathon with them? That's really the goal which we are trying to push for. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. So let me quickly go to our second bit, which is how can I grow my income? How can I grow my income? On this question of growing income, I'll start with this quote, this scripture, and I think most of us know it. 2 Thessalonians 3:10. If a man will not work, he shall not eat. Now, I've done a bit of this work in many parts of this country. One of the privileges, one of the most exciting places I've had a chance to share was in what they call the National Farmer Leadership Center in Kampiringisa. It's a lovely place, and some of you may know the place. Now, I go to the National Farmer Leadership Center, somewhere in Kampiringisa. I deliver a session, and they have lunch. They invite us for lunch, so I'm very excited to go for lunch. Now, when you go for lunch in Kampiringisa, they first of all sit you in order. You don't touch your food until you chant out about a bit of this this statement. And on the wall of the dining room is, if a man will not eat, will not work, he shall not eat. So, and what is interesting is that there is no scripture on it. There is no 2 Thessalonians 3:10. This National Farmer Leadership Center in Kampiringisa was funded by Koreans. The Koreans are the ones who funded it. And they have said that if a man shall not work, he shall not eat. It means that these Koreans may not be Christians, but they are practicing a Christian principle. And it has worked to create the country which they have. The point is that when it comes to income, the first thing is that every plate of food you eat, the question you need to ask, can you account for it? Have you earned it? Because the truth is that many of us, we eat way before we start the question of, have we worked? And they do it, and they take us through this chant. You don't touch your fork until you have said, a man. So that you reflect on the fact, have I worked today before I eat? Have I worked? And those are questions we need to ask young people. I know there are a number of young people in PCF. It's a question you need to ask. Have I eaten? If I've eaten, did I work? And it is within the scriptures. It's an instruction within the scriptures. So we need to ask ourselves, have we worked? It's the starting point of income. Now, in order to grow your income, I'm going to argue that you can take an offensive approach or a defensive approach. What's the offensive approach? This is the offensive approach. The offensive approach is, how do you go into the process of making the money? Take the offensive. Are you scoring? Income from your job is usually the starting place. Those of you who have the privilege of still holding a job at a time like this, I want you to notice that that is one of your greatest strengths. The fact that you have a place to play offensive, a place to grow your income. That job is the starting point. And it's the job in the traditional sense, but the job in whatever you do. Damba, who is the mechanic who is shared, that is his offensive. He repairs vehicles and he is playing offensive. That is his job. That's the work which he's doing. He's earning an allowance, he's earning a commission, he's earning a wage, he's earning a salary. But the point is that that's his offensive. I want to make a couple of points on this. That 96% of us are going to earn money by selling our time. That's what we're going to. The point is that we are, the job which we have, we exchange time for it. Say that I work here for a full day, in exchange for a full day, it's what will pay me. I work here for a full month, in exchange for a full month, it's what will pay me. The majority of us are going to earn like that. The question we need to ask is, are we giving value? Are we pursuing excellence? And are we continuously improving? If you currently hold a job, the fastest way of increasing your income is by making sure you are giving more value. It is absolutely important. Don't play mediocre at your workplace. Don't play mediocre. It is such a risk to your personal finances to be average at your workplace. You can't afford to be average. You need to be excellent at your workplace. I like these faces which I've put here. All of them do different kinds of work, but all of them are excellent. One of my favorite ones here is a guy called Golola. Golola hasn't won every match he has, whatever, but you have to agree that he pursues his career with excellence. And he has become such a brand name because what he has chosen to do, he has done with excellence. And all of us have to take that approach. All of us have to take that approach. I usually tell the story of that gentleman in the middle over there. The gentleman in the middle is called Dr. Mitch. I once was organizing an event about 6 months ago, about 6 years ago, possibly now 7 years. And we wanted one of the best DJs, best MCs. It was an international conference, and we settled on 3 people. Dr. Mitch, I talked to him. I was going to be our MC. It's an international event. I will be able to be there. So I told him, great. This is the date. It was sometime in April. We agreed. So I asked him, Dr. Mitch, how much will it be? He told me it will be 5. I said, 5 what? He told me it will be 5 million shillings. I told him, Dr. Mitch, it is just for an evening. We start at 7 and we end at 9. He said, yes, 5 million. I was shocked. I went back, took this information back to my information back to my boss. Some of you know my boss is a guy called Ochichi. I told Ochichi that Dr. Mitch is willing to come, but he's going to ask us for 5 million. Ochichi picked up the phone, talked to Dr. Mitch for about 15 minutes. After he put down the phone and said, you know what, Ronald? We are giving Dr. Mitch 5 million shillings. I was shocked. For a whole month, I've been negotiating with this man to allow me to at least take that. But now he's giving this same amount to the same fellow for just an evening. We paid Dr. Mitch 5 million shillings. And the reason is very simple. He was the best at what he does. If you are the best at what you do, you will be overpaid. So as you think about growing your income, first place, look at your job and ask yourself, am I excellent? Am I continuously improving? If you are not, you are threatening your personal finances. Let's move to the next. Other people's time. We're going to talk about business and investments. I'll talk about this when I talk about the investments in a moment. But the point is that there are people who earn money by selling people's time. A classic example of sending you to represent him at your workplace. So for example, if you rent an apartment for 500,000 shillings and you earn 2 million shillings per month, it means that of every 4 weeks you work, 1 week is for your landlord. The first week of the month is for your landlord because you earn 2 million shillings for 4 months. That for 1 month. That means each week you earn 500,000 shillings and 500 you give to your landlord. What that means is that, remember that's why your landlord is concerned when you are sick. And all of us, why we need to think about investment is we want to get to a place where we are able to also delegate other people to collect money on our behalf. When we are starting out, many of us don't start with inheritance. We don't start with anything. But as you grow and save and invest money, the reason why you are doing that is very simple. So that you can also recruit other people who can be able to collect money on your behalf. That's why your landlord doesn't want you sick. Because when you are sick, you are threatening his income. That's why he checks on you to say, how was the day? Because you are there on his behalf. If you pay, you are working for your landlord, and it's okay. All of us are there at one point. But the question I'm here to ask you, are you becoming that person through your investment? Then the second strategy is the defensive strategy. How do we make sure that the goals are not entered? The goals are not entered. Because it's not about earning income, but it's about making sure that we are also not being scored on our side. Some of us are great, aggressive, offensive players. We collect money, but we are not doing much at defensive. When we think about defensive, this is a quote from Epictetus, who says, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having fewer ones. I want to tell you that all of us here who have worked for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years, for 5 years, we remember that the first salary We look back at it and we used to say that if I get to the salary I have currently, I will never have any need. But now you have the salary you have currently and you have even more needs. How do we make sure that we are not caught up in constantly always wanting more and more and more possessions and not saying that what is it that we absolutely need? The question here is, what do you fight for? Expenses or savings? Some of us are very, very, very passionate advocates for our expenses. We don't want our dresses to be touched. We don't want our cars to be touched. We don't want anything to be touched. The only thing which we want is to spend. But when we say saving in peace, say, but saving is difficult. You know, the money is not enough. But when it comes to even something as simple as that meal which you enjoy every day, you say that one can't be touched. This is absolutely that one we can't touch. So the question is, who do you defend? Who are you defending currently? We find, I like this, it said, this Parkinson's law, it says that your expenditures raised to meet your income. It means that every new income which you get, expenditures will raise to cover it up. If you are one of the people who advocates, one of the greatest tests of discipline is being the person who defends your savings and investments against your expenditures, because always expenditures will rise to cover the income which you have left. So what is threatening your income? There are a number of things. The first thing which threatens your income is this thing called the officer syndrome, the manager syndrome. You could call it any. This is the status burden, what we call the status burden. Some of us, our positions, our offices, we are so fused with them that we believe that we need to be able to kind of operate. One of the biggest challenges of retirement, I was listening to a program a couple of days ago, and someone said that I retired, but now people, and I think this was Kaushenga. He said that now people introduce me as the former MD of New Vision. They say them to stop. I'm an individual. I'm not a former. I am some. But the point is that don't get lost. Don't get that job. There are many things which that job kind of makes us believe we can't. It gives you a certain kind of status. Now, us as the public, we know that we can collect more from that status. Some of you, when they send you a message for a wedding meeting, people know that they can be able to, when they send you a message for a wedding meeting, they know that they can be able to get a bit more from you. Why? Because you are manager, you are the office. Some of us, we feel like when you are promoted to become manager, you have to shift immediately, or at least as soon as you get the appointment letter. You have been comfortable in your place where you are paying 250, but they have made you manager and you are looking around for an apartment of 800,000. That is officer syndrome. The officer syndrome has caught you and it is starting to eat into your finances. You need to make sure that you're managing it and fighting it. The other syndrome which we need to fight is what we call the gambler's mindset. This is the appeal of quick money. Quick money, but friends, we all have that disease. We have that cancer inside us. Don't be deceived. You also have it. This thing of sure deal. Every time you hear you are the only one, and there is this abnormal profit, put in 1 million. We will give you 250 first week, 250 next week, 250, and then by the end of the year, you'll be the richest person. These schemes have been done and they have been done so effectively. One of the examples, some of you heard about Telex Free. Telex Free came, mopped up money. Cryptocurrency came, mopped up money. Forex trading came, mopped up money. And some of them are even genuine business, can be manipulated. Forex trading, genuine business, but it can be manipulated. And you find people are picking their NSSF and saying, let me throw it here so that I can multiply it. Every time you hear something called sure deal, abnormal profit, run, my friend. PSF, does it give you an abnormal profit? To tell you, I promise you 14% per annum. It is small, but it is sure. But then the appeal of quick money, all of us, and many of us have fallen here. That's another one which makes us fail to defend our money. Another one is the black tax. Some of you have certainly had this concept. The point is that, and this comes a lot from Southern Africa, the idea is that when you break through, you have so many people to look forward, to look around, and they will make sure that they tax. And it's totally okay. I'm personally a very strong believer in making sure that you're generous to your family. It's one of the blessings of being, of having surplus, to be able to be a blessing. But we need to be able to pay attention to say, is this actually sinking us? And we need to ask ourselves that what kind of, and some of us enjoy that status of solving every problem. You should be able to say, can I honestly solve this? And that's why we talk about budgeting. Make sure that you can say, I can honestly solve it. But don't go around solving every problem. People are calling each other. They say, no. You call him, Yeah, I just called him, he sent me 100. Your cousin tells the other cousin that, no, just call him, he's a very good man, very good man. When you call him, he sends. All of us can fall in this trap. And it doesn't enable us to defend the income which we have made. The other one is debt. Debt. The rich rule over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. Every time you have debt, you have to be more conscious, because every debt relationship creates a master and a slave. Every debt relationship. If you borrow money from your father-in-law, when he stands up, you will stand up. When he sits down, you will sit down. When he invites you for a party, you can't say no. It's a master-slave relationship. If you borrow money from your driver, your subordinate at work, I tell you, one becomes a master, one becomes a slave. Now, those of us who have managed debt, you know that you need to be extra careful when you have debt. Make sure it does the right thing it's supposed to do. When you take a loan to say you're going to do this, make sure that it does that, so that you can be able to service. Some masters are very good, and they're good masters. I'll tell you that if I were to borrow money, I would rather borrow from PCF than from a money lender. It's a better place to borrow, and it's a very good place to borrow. And when I borrow that money, I need to be paid in time. But there are some who are ruthless. That's what the Bible says in Proverbs 6:4-5. It says that allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your lids. Free yourself like a gazelle from the hands of the hand. Like a bird stewarded, you sleep, make sure those debts are repaid. Then the other one is economic outpatient. What's economic outpatient? Economic outpatient is when you support your adult children into their adulthood. This concept is picked from a book called The Millionaire Next Door. I encourage you to read it. Written by a guy called Danko and Stanley, two people. They say that sometimes as parents, we are caught in a situation where we are supporting our children into adulthood. And we need to make sure we battle not to fall in this trap, because the trap is there. And as a parent, that's one of the biggest challenges. And sometimes we are in a situation where we have no choice but to help out. But the point is that we need to walk out of it, because it is one of the reasons why we can't defend the income which we are making. Now, I'm going to propose the winning formula here. One of them, which we could consider, is what is popularly called the Jewish 5 jars. The Jewish 5 jars says that when you get an income, make sure you spread it out in these 5 jars. If you do, financial independence will be easier to achieve. Says that the first 10% to your God. As Christians, we call this tithe. Simple concept. Are you doing it? It's the first financial lesson to manage any. Later on, the promises which are made by the Bible on the same. So the point which I want to drive for me is that these are concepts which I want you to ask yourself, do you plan to be generous with, to give? It's a good place. Then it says that 20% save for investment. What is saving for investment? That is where we save for the retirement, the investment part, which I'm going to talk about next. Then save for emergencies. Have an emergency fund, another 10%. Have an emergency fund and make sure that it exists and it is there. Some scholars have said that we need about 10. We need to plan for about 10 to rather about 3 to 6 months of our monthly income to be able to plan for this emergency fund and then spend 50%. This is the formula. Now, I'll tell you that this formula is a tough formula depending on where you are. Spend. And that's the situation which we are in. But this is the formula which I wanted to put out, that there is the giving part, the spending part, and the saving for investment and for emergencies part. And it's important to look at it. Now, I will make a case for the spending for 50%, and we usually call this the two-letter test. What's the two-letter test? The two-letter test is a very simple question. The question is this, that assuming your boss calls you in office and says that I have 2 letters in front of me, a red letter and a blue letter. In the red letter is your termination letter. Today is your last day of work. In the blue letter is an offer of half your salary. You have been earning 2 million, I'm offering you 1 million. Which letter do you sign today? The boss has given you 2 letters, red letter and blue letter. I want you to put in the chat room, which letter do you sign today? I've been using this analogy for a bit of time, and I've never seen it come to life the way it has come to life these last 2 years, because these letters were actually offered to many people. The point here is that which letter do you sign? I want you to put in the chat room, which letter do you sign today? The blue letter or the red letter? Some people are saying, this is it. I've been looking for an opportunity. Some people are saying, it's the red letter. Which letter do you sign? Put in the chat room. I'm going to give you some minute to just do that, and then we bring this home. Thank you. Thank you, Onesimus. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Darlene. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, James. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Birunji. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Betty. From the chat room, and I encourage all of you to come through with your responses. Please do come through with your responses. But what comes out clearly from the chat room is that there are a couple of people who say that, you know what, this is the red letter. For me, I've been looking for an opportunity to leave this organization. I'd never found it. And now they have insulted me. I have gone. There are those people who say that, no, today I would end it. And the people who sign the red letter are the people who know for sure that when they go home, there is something to run back to. There is an alternative. Those people sign the red letter. But there are a number of us, and the majority of us from the chat room, it's clear. The majority of us will say the red letter is not a bad thing. We actually would call our spouses and tell them that, you know what, honey, God has been good to us. Then say, why has God been good to us? They say God has been good to us because today they have offered your wife would say that, I think my husband has gone mad. Then you say that, you wait. What do you mean half your salary is good news? Say that the alternative was 0. Most of us would say the blue letter is not that bad. Now, my question is that if you are willing to sign the blue letter today for half your salary, then how do you say that the Jewish 5 jars can't work right now? Because that's what would have happened. The 100% has been cut to 50%. The question which we need to ask is very simple. Are you going to wait for the jars? Are you going to wait for your boss to force you to do this? Or can you do it on your own terms? The point is that all of us can tell ourselves we have a blue letter, and we tell it today, because the day the blue letter comes, you will change things, so many things, so immediately. You will be shocked. You will change them. You change. If you had just pledged yesterday to contribute to a wedding, 200,000, you will call back the Mugore and say, you know what, Mugore, I'm sending you 50,000. Things have changed. Things are very tough now. You will change so many things. The reason is the blue letter has come. So my question to you is, if you can sign the blue letter, then the 5 Jewish jars can possibly also work. Allow me to close with, where can I invest? Where can I invest? First thing which I'm going to say is that one of the messages which has been shared on this subject is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And we have had this. It's quite important. Madam Priscilla talked about having 7 streams of income. I think this is a powerful thing. It's important that we ensure that when we think about investments, we are not putting all our eggs in one basket. However, I'm going to also argue that neither should we put an egg in every basket. In as much as we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket, we shouldn't also get into the temptation of being in everything and being in nothing deep enough. Some of us, we have just such a very small stake in PSEV, very small, nothing. We have just a tiny stake in there. Then after we look at PSEV, then you have just 200,000 in PSEV, then you have started mobile money, then you have started chicken, then you have also done ducks, then you have said you want to do a bit of forex trading, you have a little there, then you have started a small retail shop. We ask you, where are you? We don't know. So the income streams you choose, make sure that you at least have some depth in them. So you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, but neither should you have an egg in every basket. I'm going to just propose and suggest a couple of areas you should look at. The first place is your bank, your circle. Invest in your circle. Invest in your circle. The circle is a good place to invest. It is a safe place to invest. Use it. Patronize it. That's the word which we use as cooperators. Patronize your circle. And I'm going to just give you an analogy here, which I want you to think about. I want you to just think about this analogy. The analogy I'm going to give you is the analogy of 10,000 shillings a day. I'm going to argue that many of us here spend 10,000 shillings a day. I'm going to challenge you. What if you are putting 10,000 shillings per day in your circle? And you say that that's the decision I've made. I'm going to put every day, I'm going to put 10,000 shillings. What's the number looking like? If you put 10,000 shillings, that's 300,000 shillings a month, 3.6 million shillings per annum. Now, I'm not very sure what the interest rate in PSEV is. My anticipation is that it's beyond the figure I've put here, 12%. But I want to argue that if you do this consistently for the next 10 years, the money which you will have put down is that 3.39 million. Now, I want you to look at this chart. I want you to look at this chart and think about it. That assuming I just say 10,000 shillings, for those of you who drive, it's possibly more than the money which you put fuel. It's less than the money you put fuel in a day. But I want you to look at a figure like 10,000. For some of you, it may be 5,000. For some people, it may be 2,000. But why I want to put it here is I want you to see the multiplier effect. This is the power of the thing we called compound interest, gaining momentum. That this time in 10 years, your stake can be close to about 83 million. If you say, I want to remove the interest, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. And when you want to know how powerful compound interest is, you want to see what happens if I put the 10,000 and I say I'm taking the interest. If you are taking the interest, it falls from 83 to 58 million. If you are taking the principal, you find that at the end you have only 12 million shillings in there because all the money, the 36 million, you have removed it. But that's our circle. Let us patronize it because it has the capacity to actually create wealth for us. It's a capacity which it has. That is one of the areas. As you think about where to invest, think about this circle which you are part of. Investing patronize it can be able to create wealth for you. And it's where ventures. And I wanted to make the point that both these are real estate in Uganda. When we talk about real estate, it's not just the big houses. There are people who have ventured into these small musical, and that's what they invest in. And the interesting thing is that you will find that there are markets in there. They are not yet very visible, not fully researched in this country, but they exist. And some of us here participate in them. So when you think about real estate, sometimes there are people with much less who are participating. Can you be able to be part of that? Treasury bills, bonds, that's another hope that one day you can invite someone to just tell you about the opportunities here, even for you as a son, to say that there are things which I can be able to do and diversify my investment moment and for a moment and then bring this to a close. The thing about business in this country is that we need to notice that we all enter it with a different perspective. Sometimes you are out of work and you need to enter there to just make sure you keep afloat. Some of us are using it as a side hustle. But the point is that make sure you give business the seriousness it deserves. Anyone who tells you that choosing the path of business is simpler than a job is telling you a lie. You take on more risk when you are a business owner than what you take on as an employee. As an employee, you only take on the risk of doing your work. As a business owner, you even have people you have to pay. You have suppliers you have to pay. You have banks you have to pay. It's a big responsibility. If you have found a need that you can be able to answer, ask yourself, can I be able to push them? I know there are a couple of young people here who are saying that, you know what, I need to be able to start, but don't, before you do the spectacular, you do the simple. For a young person, if you have just finished, sometimes even still on campus, the business which you are looking at may be a laundry service. And the laundry service we are looking at is collecting clothes in your hostel, making sure you join 2 or 3 ladies and you make sure those clothes are washed and you take them back. That could be your laundry service. It is not as spectacular as super clean, but the point is that you have started your laundry service. And you have to accept that if there is a need in the community I am in, can I be able to solve it and solve it for a payment? At this moment, as we bring this home, I would like to call upon all of us to ask ourselves, when I think about the side of the income, the side of the savings, have I attempted to make sure that I make progress in those areas? I'm going to close with an analogy. An analogy I'm going to close with, some of you have possibly heard it before, but I'll close with it anyway. I want to ask in the chat box, I want to ask those of us who are part of the conversation right now, I want to ask you a very simple question. If you are in Kampala, how many of you today can walk to Ginger? Please put it in the chat box. You can say, yes, I can walk to Ginger right now. Please put it in the chat box. I'll wait a few more minutes. If you say, I can walk to Ginger right now, please just put that in the chat box. All right. Faith says, I can't. Jackie says, I can't. Yeah, Martin says, me, I can. Carol says, no, I can't. Edward says, I can't. Great. Dennis, thank you. Vincent says, I have a bicycle. Depending on the conditions. Great. So the majority of us seem to say that the truth is, I don't think we can walk to Ginger, especially right now. Now, allow me to change the question slightly. And the change of the question which I am going to make is this. Assuming I change the question, that those of us, wherever you are, I want you to think about just your neighborhood where you are listening to this session from. Assuming we changed the situation, and then you are seated right there doing this session, and then you hear a big sound come out, ooh, big explosion in the building in your neighborhood right next to you. You think it's a joke, you hear another explosion in another place, and then you run out and you say, what has happened? They tell you that rebels have attacked on the roundabout somewhere in Busega, or somewhere in Natete, somewhere in Bweyogerere, and they have put a big gun and they are shooting everything in the neighborhood. The UPDF has said that the only way they can protect us is if you reach that beautiful bridge in Ginger. If you cross over to Ginger, they say they are protected on the entire Ginger and Eastern Uganda. At this point, how would Ginger put that? How many of us at this point can say, I can walk there? Especially the people who said they couldn't walk. People are saying, I would get there, I would even run. Paul says, yes, I would be right there. You would find people with the cannulas, with even possibly even you have a broken hand. The question which we need to ask is, where has the energy come from? Where has this energy come from? Many of us will say that the energy has come from the bomb explosion. When the bomb goes off, people find energy to walk. The truth is that all of us here can walk to Ginger. The only question we need to ask is, will we walk to Ginger on our own terms, or will we walk to Ginger after the bomb? When it comes to personal finances, The biggest problem is that most of us walk after the bomb goes off. COVID-19 was a bomb in many families, and we have seen people walk. We have seen people who have never done business. They have turned their Facebook pages into business pages because the bomb has exploded. I've had the opportunity of working closely with small and medium business for the better part of now 11 years. And one of the most fascinating statistics, I ran a big project in the Greater North called Strengthening Women Entrepreneurs. One of the most fascinating statistics we got from that project is how many women start businesses when they lose their husbands. It was such a fascinating statistic. The number of businesses run by widows. And when that bomb explodes, the businesses begin. My only appeal to you, and as I bring this to a close, is that the best time to walk to Ginger is now. Walk to Ginger on your own terms. Don't wait for the bomb. When the bomb goes off, you will walk to Ginger. Possibly that day you are putting on high heels. Possibly that day you are putting on a suit. But when you walk to Ginger on your own terms, you will walk on your own rules. You will put on comfortable shoes. So that is the same in personal finance. When it comes to your personal finances, it's a tough journey walking to Ginger. It's going to take energy walking to Ginger. But the point is, do it on your own terms. That's what PSAVE is about. It's about allowing you to walk to Ginger on your own terms. Is it a tough journey? Yes, it is. But is it better to walk on your own terms than after the explosion? Absolutely. My only request to you today is that start your walk to Ginger now. Start now with what you have. That's the picture which I will leave with you. I like that picture because everyone who looks at that guy says, possibly he shouldn't be eating maize if you have one tooth. But the truth is that you start with what you have and we see how that journey goes. Thanks a lot for your time. Stay blessed. Thank you so much. I'll hand back to Faith.
Wow. Thank you so much. I think that bomb situation should start maybe Busega, somewhere far, not where you get it. Thank you so much, Mr. Ronald. That was quite insightful. Could we clap for him, send the clap emoji, and celebrate Mr. Ronald for that wealth of information that he has shared? I have a few questions that came through. In the chat. Let me just get to that. Yes. So someone asked, how do if I invested in a first-time venture and made a loss, should I continue with the same investment or should I change to another one? And the next question I got, maybe you'll respond to them at once. The next question I got, though the member says they got the answer, but just for the benefit of others, the presentation seems to require or insinuate that I should restart, and yet I am at a point of retirement in my life. What should my attitude be towards sins of omission? Over to you, Mr. Ronald. Mr. Ronald, are you still there? Okay, while we wait for him to get back on, members, please share your highlights.
I seem to have missed the last part of the question.
Yes, the second question was about the presentation seems to be veering towards restart, and yet I am at retirement. What should my attitude be towards the sins of omission? I think a case of I missed the opportunity. Or that.
Lovely. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Faith, for those questions, and thanks, colleagues, for the questions. I think the first question on I made a loss. Should I try again, and or should I start a different path? I think one of the biggest challenges of business is that when it comes to you, the business owner, the business founder, you are the custodian of that decision. But however, I'm going to just kind of make a couple of comments on how you should think about that decision, because the final decision on whether you exit or you start again is as the entrepreneur. But I think one thing which is important, who hasn't in one way or the other paid the school fees for the business which they're in? Usually when you make a loss in a business, in our language here, we call it school fees. It means that there are things which you can only learn during the game. Now, we advise people to ensure that they are learning more from others, so that they're reducing the risk of learning from their own experiences. But the point is that sometimes it happens. So the question which you need to ask is, from this experience which I had, are there things it would work? But otherwise, you may have learned that this thing can't work, it can't work here, and it can't work here now. That could be the lesson which you have learned. If that's the lesson which you have learned, then you have to say that possibly this is the time for me to be able to shift from this business. So it's important to walk through, and sometimes having a think partner, sometimes possibly a mentor during this period is very helpful. Someone who asks you the difficult questions, and possibly someone who has walked the journey. I do know that for sure, even within the PSAVE family, there are people who have attempted that business, who have moved in that direction. Engage them and talk to them and say, this is where I'm at. What do you think the direction I should take should be? So that's a powerful one. There was the question of approaching retirement. I think that's a very powerful question, and many times we look at this conversation and say, I wish I'd done this 20 years ago. Now that would be the best thing, but the point is that we are where we are now. My mother retired about 15 years ago, and I remember a conversation we had with her, my brother and I. My brother and her rather, we were telling her. So she had these conversations. Now you people are retiring, the end has come, and she's still alive and going strong. I mean, the point is that retirement is just starting of another really journey. I mean, the life expectancy of Uganda is about 62, 63. Chances are very high that if you are 50, 55 at this point, you are still doing another 25 years, which is quite a long period of time. It means you can plant trees and complete that cycle. So I think for me, that if you ask me, the mindset you should take into retirement, take the mindset of an opportunity to start again. It means that you have this wealth of knowledge of the experiences which you have had. How do you use it? And then engage the people who have walked that journey. It's actually true that you can be able to start a completely new journey. It shouldn't be looked at as an end, but it should be looked at as a beginning of a new journey, because the truth is people are spending much longer in their retirement, and as they spend much longer, you have to have a clear sense of purpose even during this period. And some people will say, for me, I'll go into volunteering, I'll go into working with my church and my community. Other people are going to business, but have the financial stability to be able to do that. And sometimes that's what you're looking for. But I think what is from the perspective of, it's a big opportunity for me to restart and remove. Faith, over to you.
Thank you so much for those that elaborate response. In the interest of time, I will not take any more questions, but will have an opportunity to answer them off the record. For now, allow me invite one of our founders, Mr. Paul Wafula, to make closing remarks and thank the speaker. Mr. Paul, you're welcome.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you, the CEO and the executive of PSEV, for giving me the opportunity to speak to us. Can you hear me? Am I loud enough? Thank you. Yes, so I'd like to appreciate Mr. Mukasa for the well presented discussion this morning. It's been very eye-opening. I think for me, there are several statements that stood out for me. The one that struck me the most is, if you're the best at what you do, you'll be overpaid. So we have the opportunity to be the best at what we're doing so that we can earn more. Then the other one that stood out from was, don't put all your eggs in one basket, neither an egg in every basket. That for me was very profound. There are several statements. It's a marathon, not a spirit. Wealth consists in having great possessions, but having few ones. You need to make sure that you have less, and then also the fact that your income, your expenditure will rise to meet your income. Tells you that you have to be very careful to mind how much you spend and not let it catch up with your increase in income. I was also struck by the scripture, if a man will not work, he shall not eat. I'm a firm believer in that we need to work fast before we rest. Even the Bible tells us you'll work for 6 days and rest on the Sabbath. But we put so much emphasis on the Sabbath before the work. If we're so religious about the Sabbath, we should even be more religious, 5 times more about the work. So that also struck me. I like the 5 jars. That for me was very profound. And of course, the things to be mindful of, the black tax. It's not for you. It is for you, not for your funds. Those are very profound. The officer mentality, officer syndrome, the gambler mindset. These are things that actually happen. I've been in the market. I've been working for now over 23 years. And I've seen all these things happen. I have tried a zillion businesses. I think there's no example you've given that I haven't been a victim of. And so it's good to hear that some of us are hearing this now before we've made as many mistakes as others have. And I also like the fact that you can still start from where you are. So I want to appreciate Mr. Mukasa for the well-presented, the well-done presentation. Just in other words, I wanted to also just give us a bit of, just for the sake of those that are not yet active, or those who are not yet members of PSAF, or have not been active, just a way to remind you that when PSAF began, it's interesting that I happened to have visited Kenya for a work assignment. I work for Standard Chartered Bank, and so I went to do an assignment there. And what I found very interesting is my colleagues had this saving scheme where they were all setting aside 50 Kenya shillings. It was 500 Kenya shillings that time. So that, because normally we got paid early in December, they would pay us before Christmas. So most people by January, when the school begins, are broke because you're paid early before mid-December. You're paid in mid-December. You have a very expensive Christmas and New Year, and then the term begins in early January. So guys were broke. It was just crazy. And so they created this scheme where they would set aside, that time it was 500 Kenya shillings, which was equivalent to 10K Uganda shillings. So that in December, they would get a 13th check. So that scheme was to give them access to that money that would cover them through January before they get paid. And so I came back with that concept and told my colleagues, part of the professionals fellowship, that guys, we can actually make money by coming together. And as well, they used to lend that money in the pool at an interest. So the money was already growing just by coming together. And so that's how we came to start up the PSAF. That time it was Professional Save, which is what's now PSAF. And it's amazing to see how far it has grown. And I can imagine if we all just took the basic concept that we've just seen Mr. Mukasa has used, the 10,000 per day. Is it, yeah, 10K? That is phenomenal, how far that in 10 years would have grown. So I just want to encourage those that are not yet part of PSAF, or those that are not practicing any saving, that this is a good opportunity for you. So just PSAF is basically a service and a credit society limited that was started in 2007, registered in 2014, with a mission of mobilizing and growing members' wealth through savings, smart investments, attractive credit services, and demand-driven solutions. PSAVE, like all circles, is member-owned, and it's designed to benefit its members. We try and foster collective savings to create opportunities for investment to benefit the members. The headquarters at Deliverance Church, Makere Hill, and that's next to Bativa. And PSAVE exists and remains committed to empowering Christians in the marketplace. The whole point of PSAVE is to harness and pool resources together and try and translate our individual ambitions into a community force, and to be able to provide a platform for financial growth and transformation. There is power in collecting money together, and the advantage with, like Mr. Mukasa said, with saving in a circle is when the money is together, whether you borrow or you lend, that is still money that is yours. So the money is yours by saving, the money is yours as interest on the money that other people borrow. So it grows. The compound interest is what eventually benefits the members. So we'd like to interest as many of you to participate or to join and or actively participate in growing your savings with the PSAVE. I'm sure we also know that it's got a multi-purpose arm, and the whole aim for this is to try and diversify, to create more diversity of operations for our members. And one of the examples is if you say you wanted to purchase land at a good location, the PSAVE is able to process everything for you till you get a title. And it could also finance that property acquisition up to 30%. There are several other products like the savings accounts, the young savers accounts, some target saving accounts at very competitive interest rates. And the requirements to join is simply have a passport copy or national ID, have an amount of 60,000, 30 is for membership, 30%, 30,000 would be the value for a share, 220,000 your membership, and 10,000 an initial deposit. So with 60,000 passport or ID, you should be able to become a member of PSAVE. And then, of course, we have the fixed deposit accounts that give you also an attractive interest. The minimum, I think, is the minimum I think is 30 M plus for the fixed deposit. So as we finish, I would like to thank the organizers of this event. I believe every one of us has been able to pick something, and I'm a firm believer that we are better together. Let's bring our money together and let's grow together. And I believe there's only one direction. It will grow and it will get better. May God bless you, and thanks again for coming. Thank you, Mr. Mukasa. Thank you, the executive, for arranging this event. And I think we'll be like Oliver Twist. We need more and more of these. Have a very nice day. Back to you, Faith.
Thank you so much, Paul, for those remarks. And as we come to a close, we'll share Mr. Ronald's contacts. They were in his presentation. I've seen a number of requests for that. We'll share those with you. But for now, let's just close in prayer, and we pray that God will help us to practice. Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for what we've been able to learn. We thank you for our speaker and for everybody else who communicated with us this morning. We pray that we will not be as those who look in the mirror and forget. But I pray that we'll put to practice what we have learned. We'll put to practice what we have been taught today, even from where we are, and we'll be able to also share with others. We pray that the rest of this week and the rest of the year is blessed. In Jesus' name I have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. We hope to have you again for the next training, which will be communicated. God bless you.
Hi, my name is Irene Luguza. I am married to Paul Luguza. We've been married for about 13 years. I joined PSAVE 7 years ago. I joined basically because of the basic advertising in church. They call for us to save, to invest, and grow our savings. So that was my initial reason for joining PSAVE. I just heeded to the call that was being made for people to come and join PSAVE. Yeah, so PSAVE was kind of my place for putting those monies that you want to grow and invest later on when it's significant. The time we started working at investing the small savings that we had accumulated was probably about 2015. We had been thinking about doing some real estate as a business, basically putting up simple housing for rent. And our dreams were not so big. I mean, we're not thinking about lush, big 21 units of apartments. We just wanted small units that we can start with and probably grow as we also grow our finances. So in 2015, we did take a loan from PSAVE. I think that was actually the first loan that we ever took for investment. And it did work well because it kind of gave us opportunity to finish faster so that we can start getting rental incomes, and also the rental incomes go into paying back the loan even faster. So the loan application process was quite smooth. We also at some point did get a top up on the loan when we realized that what we had got would probably take us so far but not complete. So the top up brought us to a point where we completed and managed to get in tenants, and thereafter we did complete that loan, and we completed in time by God's grace. From then on, we have kept getting loans at PSAVE, so long as we consistently paid our loans. And also the times that we had probably slight delays or didn't pay maybe on the debt of loan recovery, it was not such a harsh process of being charged interest per every other day or hour of not paying like banks would. And I think that's what kept us getting from PSAVE. At first, getting a loan would seem like you'd want to keep it as small as possible to what you can pay, but we've kept growing even in the amount of money we get from PSAVE. Now, I mean, PSAVE is able to give us quite big chunks because over the years as we've invested and also had the finances grow in terms of the rental incomes from the properties we've been putting up, you kind of have a bigger buffer, and so you can borrow even bigger and then have the faith to pay. I think also being a Christian business, maybe they do pray for us as we invest, and so our businesses prosper. That's a possibility because from the time we started having PSAVE as a reliable partner, we have been not only financially disciplined, but we have also had the monies that we get being meaningfully engaged in the businesses, and then also the businesses kind of bringing back. We've not had scenarios where we have houses up for 2 or 3 months without being occupied. When someone gets out, another set of people comes in. And from the times that we are finishing, we have people coming to kind of book accommodation. So I think being part of a Christian-based financial institution, I mean, they're not the kind that is probably waiting for you to fail so that they can recover and recover even bigger than what they got from you. So I think that worked for us also. Yeah, so that's a bit about how we've worked with PSAVE, and PSAVE has helped us to kind of grow. Well, in my view, I think every business needs some kind of financing, especially if you want to grow. Like I said earlier, I was not the kind, actually before probably 2011, I don't think I had ever got a loan because I was the kind who was not so into borrowing money. I kind of thought, let's just live within our means and then grow your savings to a point where you can actually invest only what you have grown. But the reason why I think now differently is because sometimes financing helps you to achieve what you could have achieved in 5 years, in 2 years, and start recovering or making money from what you've actually invested in, so that you can start earning earlier. So that's how I think it worked for us. We were able to achieve faster so that you can start earning earlier. So PSAVE, I think, is that kind of reliable financial partner, and I would definitely recommend PSAVE to any Christian that is looking to grow their business and to prosper, basically, in the things that they are doing. I think it's good to get financing and have it specifically for the reason for which you got it. Sometimes as you get a loan, so many other competing priorities can come up. You might be tempted to divert some financing to those other priorities coming up, but I think it is really wise to remain focused. If you've borrowed for your investment, be sure to do that. Invest in the business for which you borrowed, so that you can actually attain your financial goal of finishing earlier, so that you can start earning from it and further pay your loan. I've also learned a few things to do with having a plan in terms of financing. Sometimes we dream too big and then probably don't even have a way of how we are going to pay back what we have borrowed, because the dream is too big. Sometimes it helps to start small and then grow as your business grows. I remember that's how we wanted to start with, storied apartments and put them out for rent and, earn big from one. But we thought about it again and said maybe it's better to start small and let the money start working, so that much as you'll not earn so big because you don't have such a big property, you will at least have your money, making money within short spans and then growing the money as the years go on. So that has guided also our investments. We've always invested in accommodation that is basically, the kind that you'd call for the middle class, or maybe even the class below the middle class. The affordable housing. And so the affordable housing, you'll probably not suffer so much looking for the tenants to occupy the properties. And also, much as the returns are not so high, at least there is an opportunity for you to grow the profits over the years, rather than aiming so big, investing big, and then maybe failing because you keep getting top-ups and top-ups and top-ups, and then the top-ups are not completing so that you can start earning earlier in order to actually pay back. So I think that has worked quite well for us. My parting shots, let's find reliable financial partners for our businesses. For those who are not loan prone, I think you can grow your faith, especially if you start with saving something small every month. PSAVE has a very flexible mode of dealing with their clients, so long as you can consistently save at least for 6 months and show commitment to putting some finances aside in order to achieve your dreams. And I think that is something that just comes down to financial discipline. If you can't save something of your income, then there's something that you can cut out from probably your living expenses or your budget, so that you can be able to save. I think it is very important for people to save so that they can grow their savings and also be able to invest their savings and also get financing to achieve their dreams. PSAVE for me, in 2 words, I thought 1 word would suffice, but in 2 words would be reliable and also flexible.